Yes.
We should have a moment of silence, one of our, Bob
Oh, yeah,
Asson passed
Bob.
away.
Bob
Bob Asson,
Bob Asson.
fireman from number 5 fire hall, real dedicated to the fire hall and pretty much the community in general.
Bill was a real good guy. Roll call back.
Councilman Falls.
Here.
Councilman Ballard.
Here.
Councilman Hondo. Councilman Petrucci. Councilman Stein.
Here.
Vice President voted in. President Ingles.
Here. Okay, workshop for October 13th. Mr. Moore.
Okay, ready?
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Did you want to go with the
Yeah,
gavel?
yeah.
Yes.
Homestead. John, you wanna? Sure. Introduce yourself and.
You can pull that wherever you need to.
Thank you. And I give you a packet. Unfortunately, I don't have it for everybody, but there's 3 sheets. Hopefully the council will. Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here. And my name is John Hayer. I'm the president of the Untitled Homestead Foundation. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization. We were founded in 1989. We incorporated in 1989. And what we are is a diverse organization of citizens, workers, educators, and historians. Our purpose is to preserve, interpret, and promote people's history focused on the significance of the dramatic labor conflict, which we know about here at Homestead, Pennsylvania in 1892. While the event is significant in the larger scope of the United States industrial history and, of course, the history of organized labor in America, it is only part of our overall mission with respect to preserving and promoting the history of work, workers in the workplace, and other aspects of the homestead community from the 19th century through the present day, and even discussion of key issues for the future, like what will be the jobs of tomorrow, where will people work, what is going to be the effect on the tech industry, to what jobs we have. We wrote a letter to your borough manager, and I did send some information there. We are interested in utilizing this wonderful building, municipal building, as a historical and heritage asset to the community. We've had a dream for since our inception that based on our history and the richness of the heritage and the importance of the Steel Valley to our nation, that the many communities that have suffered so much from the decline of steel could benefit from telling the story of our industrial history and heritage, and now becoming more of a center for really cultural and historical tourism. And we have the example of Rivers of Steel Heritage Corporation, which we partner with. We have the example of the Braddock Battlefield Museum. This has just started over in Braddock. And some of you may know about actual what's called trails for historical tourism that have been established in various parts of the country. Most notable, the Civil Rights Trail for tourism that attracts bus trips and many tourists to Alabama and Georgia to visit historic civil rights sites. We have our own historic sites that can be discussed and talked about and should be. And our idea is that in addition to Rivers of Steel, we would like to see a center for what we would call the history of labor and the future of work. And we think this building would be an ideal spot to develop such a center. Now, one of these pages in your packet has a report from a feasibility study that we conducted 3 years ago. And we looked at 3 sites for the possibility of a labor heritage and future of work center. We did look, we looked at the large building adjacent here because of the natural attraction, I think, of this entire site here. And we also looked at, is there area around the pump house? And we also looked at the Schwab building, and we did some studies, and really initial studies about what could happen there. On the back, you'll see an architect's idea of what could have been developed with the Schwab building. We came here, and again, thanks to a borough manager to enable us to take a look and have the architect take a look at what was here. And what we would like to do is we would like to work with your borough council on what would be a long-term project. It would be kind of tilting against the windmill project, because we're talking about raising a lot of money and developing a first-class facility and community assets and building further community partnerships here. But we have the experience to actually, we think, and also we believe there will be important things happening over the next 5 to 10 years that will put our region, and particularly the Steel Valley, in the spotlight of America. One of them is that perhaps you remember 3 years ago, Battle of Homestead was the sponsor of a play that was presented at the Carnegie Library Hall, where world-renowned Shakespearean actor Mark Rylance came and developed a play with Pittsburgh local artists. It was sold out, it was in all the papers, and it was in the commemoration of the 125th anniversary of the Battle of Homestead. Mark Rylance now has written 7 plays about Homestead, and he's obsessed with Henry Clay Frick. Can't understand how Henry Clay Frick could have done what he did. And these plays are now being workshopped in Boston. Rylance has the ability, because of his connection to movie director Steven Spielberg, to actually develop these plays, and those plays will be, no doubt, a television series, a national television series, that will actually spotlight sites here, our history, and really generate much more interest than before about what happened here and why. And where are the sites? What do we say about it today? How does it deal with with our communities now? How do we develop now that we've been abandoned by and large by the manufacturing industries? And how do we proceed? And what can we do to learn from that history? How do we interact with our schools and the education that is given about our history and the future? So that's our idea. It's a big one. The other thing is that the wonderful connection between the Borough of Homestead and the history of the wonderful life of Bill Campbell. And Bill has been a wonderful contributor to the infrastructure of the Steel Valley. His name is known and renowned throughout the tech industry, as you know, and there is, we believe, a number of interests that we could tap in the .com industry to further the work and interest of Bill Campbell in this area. So, working on that, we would hope to proceed. What we want specifically, and I'll stop, I know I'm running on a bit. Number one, and this is quite general, we would like a resolution that endorses and supports the renovation of the historic Munhall Municipal Building into a community historic and heritage asset. This is general, but it would say, we think it's a good idea to try to utilize this building as a historic asset. Second, support our efforts at Alec Homestead Foundation to build community partnerships to develop a feasible plan to establish a history and heritage museum in this renovated building. Third, to establish a Borough Council working group to meet with Alec Homestead representatives to discuss, one, leasing issues, short and long term, to permit this development project to proceed. We're talking a long-term project that would be at least 18 months or longer to really get off the ground. And to also discuss legal and regulatory issues relative to the renovation, and certainly the accommodation, how we accommodate the borough's future plan for the fire department or current plan for the fire department here. Those are all issues. There's no immediate answers to them, but we would like to try to pique your interest in this project. We would be responsible for the development plan and raising the money to do so, and raising the money for not just the renovations, but also some effort to have operating costs for 5 to 10 years. You don't start a project like this without an awareness you are not going to be a money generator immediately, and you need to have a plan for also a endowment for operating costs. So that's our idea right now. I know it's general, but we'd like to work with you. We love this site. The architect loves this particular site, and we have some track record in these kind of development projects, but we have a long way to go. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to get a lot of this, I'm going to jump around this agenda a little bit. First one, written consent of council to establish the RCAP grant. So it's in everyone's packet. If you want to read it over the next week, if you have any problems, let me know. What it's really saying is we own the building. We put, it costs this much to renovate the building. This RCAP grant is a $1 million grant we're getting from the state. This is a requirement that they have. This has already went to Anthony Ditka and Greg Vaskovic, both attorneys, to review this written consent. They both signed off and approved it. The council just needed to vote and accept it. Second one, the GED TF grant usage. Well, this has changed in the last couple of days. Number one, we'll vote on a resolution to be able to apply for a grant, a GED TF grant for the 22nd Avenue Storm Sewer Project. There's some issues that we have there. Remember, anybody who was at the meeting down at the library, there was an individual that talked about some of the issues we had there. We felt that this was the biggest issue we have as far as that would apply for this. So we had to vote for that. And there's also an applicant certifications that we need to vote on for the same grant. Just more or less saying that some procurement, that we will comply to all the different things, environmental regulations, different things on that, ADA compliance and everything. When we hire these, when the state or federal government or county gives you any money to do anything, they want to make sure you follow all these different rules. These are just applications, certifications, and resolutions that we need to pass to be able to apply for the grant.
Joe, where is this? You said 22nd?
22nd, that was done by,
International.
International.
Okay.
We've been having some problems with that sewer, both us and the sewer authority. Both of us have some issues there, so we felt that this was a good.
Is that over the hillside, Judge?
No, you're getting down there, yeah. There's a storm, right in front, there's a storm.
A couple years
Yeah.
ago,
There's a number 4, CDBG recurring resolution. Since I've been here 5 years or 6 years, we have always did storm, catch basin replacements. We get money for it, it's no match. We get the money from the county, and we have to, it's time to apply, so we need to have another resolution to apply for that. Another one is the one that just says resolution at the top. That's for, there's a library grant that we supported, and we need to have some electronic signatures. And so this gives us, this resolution allows us to sign electronically. And the people that they want to be the signer electronically is President Ingalls. Sent an email today and said, we need to adjust this a little bit. Could we switch Finance Chairman Stein with President Ingalls and just switch the two names, so. Again, another formality if we want to get money. So. Crossing guards. Okay, good comprehensive plan meeting discussion. The 3 boroughs are working on a comprehensive plan. Every municipality should have a comprehensive plan of what, and it's a big process. We're doing it with a grant. We're working with Basic Engineering. Basic Engineering did a lot of work, legwork. They talked to the community. People filled out surveys, so forth and so on. So we had a meeting the other day, and the big question they had from the 3 boroughs was getting to sharing services, merging municipalities, so forth and so on. So do either of you, Dave or Mark, would like to expand on that?
No, but I think that what the outcome was that all 3 borough managers agreed that we should explore merging these boroughs, or at least consolidating services. And so the comprehensive plan now, they're going to try to do a public relations program to try to convince people that we could save a lot of money by consolidating services. So.
And I talked to the other municipalities, both Homestead and West Homestead, and the game plan seems to be, work in your own house, figure out what we want to do, see if Homestead's on the same page, or find out who wants to do this, or move to the next step. Once we get, if all 3 boroughs, is this something they want to do, or something they want to look into, then we can go to the state and ask them to help us, and they'll guide us in the right way. We just thought, since the 3 boroughs were all there, we talked about it, probably it dominated the conversation, we didn't say?
Right. Yeah,
So we felt that we should just, this is how it came about, and this is where we're at.
It would most likely end up on a referendum to vote in all 3 boroughs. It was 101 years ago, in 1920 it was on the referendum, and it lost by 31 votes when everybody was sure it was going to pass. And,
Would that have to pass in all 3 boroughs for it to take effect, though, from what I think?
Oh, yes.
So that's.
Well, I don't know if it's all 3 boroughs, or if it has to just pass.
Not today, even.
Yeah, I don't know.
You just,
I mean, I think Homestead would have to pass it also.
Oh, sure. Homestead,
If
yeah.
Homestead doesn't pass it, then the thing would be
Oh,
a
right.
dead issue.
Well, that's what happened in 1920. Homestead passed it, and Munhall voted it down, and West Homestead voted it down. But at that time, Homestead was by far the largest borough. And,
Nobody wants to.
but it's, you know,
That's a talking point, but I don't know, I think it's.
well, that could roll right in, that could roll right into the next topic. It's the budget preparation. The way the budget works, Dave, just how we do it. Becky and I put all the numbers together, we look at the last few years, what do we spend on this? What are we gonna need to spend this year, so forth and so on? And then council would come to the meeting and say, okay, we need to do this, that, and the other thing. For instance, some things, salaries, insurances, they're not gonna change. We know what they're gonna be next year, or we have a track record of what it's gonna be. But we paid $150,000 last year. That was it. So how much, we need to probably pay around $400,000 a year, which we were doing. We cut $250 out because of the budget. So we need to figure out what we wanna do. Raise it, I don't know how we're not gonna raise taxes. You can't run a municipality without raising taxes for 12 years. And as I've been saying for the last year, there's three things. You either raise taxes, you cut expenditures, or you sell off assets. There's no way around it. So some of the things that we know the salaries are going up. We know that health insurance is going up. We know, or do we want to put in more money for paving? Speed humps, that's all I heard. My man Becky were talking, he said, maybe every councilman and the mayor takes 10 speed humps. And they say, okay, this is where I want to put 10 speed humps. Everyone takes 10 speed humps, and then you need 4 signs for every speed hump. That's about just that many, 10. And you figure, you look at Ravine Street, how many speed humps you're gonna need on Ravine Street? You need 4 signs for every speed hump. One to say it's coming up, and one to say it's here, both ways. So this is what the budget planning's for. Becky and I will get it to a point, and then council got to determine what they want to add to it from what we didn't have. Salaries, paving, parks and recreation. We know we have a match of roughly $250,000 there. What else, Becky? There was one other main thing. Well, paving, speed humps.
And what were the costs of the speed humps? They were like,
Speed humps would be, just for 80 of them, you're looking like close to $200,000, $150,000 to $200,000 in the budget. Paving, again, I don't know, $150,000 isn't gonna cut it this year. There's some roads there that are bad and they're dangerous. We put Band-Aids on them this year just to get through the next year.
We need 150,000 on alleys.
yeah.
Alleys,
Seriously,
we need 150,000 on alleys.
Joe,
So,
do we know, I know in the past, before we tore up Old Road, we asked the utility companies if they plan.
Do it every year.
Yeah.
we do it every year.
Have they, I mean, can we give them a list, could we possibly give them a list of our bad roads and say, hey, could you maybe do these roads? Because, look at what happened down Ravine Street. When we did it, and 5 years later, they.
It wasn't even, it was a year later.
They don't
5 years.
don't
Was it
care.
5? It seemed like a year.
I mean, and I seen like the job they did on Patrol Street and things. I mean, if we know there's, hey, could we maybe you, I mean, I know you check with them, hey, what's your plans? But can you say, hey, these roads are bad. If you have this in your budget for 2 years down the road, could you maybe move that up now? Because, what's a good road? Hilltop Street or,
I could ask you whatever I want.
yeah,
That doesn't mean they're gonna do it.
That's
Right,
right.
but could, I mean, maybe.
Or they
because
don't
I know
tear
you
it
have
up
good
again
working-
a year
I know
later.
you have a
They
really
do
good
it. They
working
don't
They don't care.
I know you have a good working relationship with, say, hey, we're planning on doing these roads right now, they're real bad shape, but if you're planning on doing these 2 years down the road, can maybe you move your schedule up to help
Does
us?
anybody go down the
Dave, that's a good question, and that's a good theory. But if you remember a couple years ago, when Roberta
Oh,
and
no, it's
Summerfield
worse now.
Drive, I sent an
They dug it
email
up. It's
to
a mess.
the gas company and the water company, said, are you doing any projects in this area? I never got an answer back. We had a construction meeting on a Friday. The Friday prior, I got a street opening. Now, it worked out to our advantage, because when I called the guy and let him know that, hey, I've been trying to do this, you better have 3 people in this meeting. They ended up giving us $60,000. It worked really well, because I told them, when we went to the meeting, or we went out there, they want to cut out all these sidewalks. I said, well, what's the easiest way? Right down the street, but we don't want to pave the whole street. No, but get it up to us, we'll finish it. We end up getting $60,000. So that's, if we could do that every single year, everywhere we do, that's great. But don't forget, they got long-range plans, and they got, $100 million plans and everything. For them to tweak it isn't always so easy. Maybe one here, one there, but to give them a wish list and say, these are all the ones we do, probably not gonna happen. I can tell them, I mean, we know Larkspur and Wayne Road are the two worst streets in the borough. That's not even talking about some of these alleys. But that's another thing, is we could do alleys. In-house, we could do alleys. Some of them, I mean, over here by Dell's, you look at some of those alleys in the back there, they go up and down, we can't do those. But the level ones, our machine could do alleys for the most part.
Okay.
But how much are we going to budget, and how much are we going to,
Why can't you do 19th Avenue?
so.
Joe.
You had to budget
Yeah.
salaries and the
Yeah.
extra equipment and the extra material.
Joe, you said our guys can do flat stuff, right, alleys? Why doesn't our guys went over and did 19th Avenue right before Desamone's house? It's such a damn mess, it looks like a landfill.
Yeah.
It's so bad, yeah, I'm sure you don't go down there too
That's in
much.
Lewis.
I go down there every day.
You don't think that road's bad?
Yeah, we're just talking about the budget.
I understand
You
that.
cannot just go and just do roads and have $100,000 bills coming because
But you're saying our guys can do stuff, but I don't see our guys out doing something like that.
we didn't budget for that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's all. I mean, we didn't raise taxes in 12 years, so you take the same amount of money and try to work at it. We all know, if we did that at our own homes, buying milk and bread and coffee or whatever you do, that same amount of money 12 years ago isn't gonna last the same thing. We shouldn't expect it to do it now.
We didn't do any of these last year, right?
We did a few.
I mean, I know 2 years ago we did a few.
Munhall Borough.
Mr. Rojo, I understand about the Parks and Rec, I understand the talk about the speed bumps. You said salaries. What salaries are you talking about that will definitely increase?
Every single employee in the borough,
Police, public
Gets an
works.
annual raise.
there's a contract with the police department,
Okay, police.
Public Works. The only ones that aren't guaranteed a raise is Dave, Becky, and myself.
No offense, but you got it last year or this year. But I'm just saying, so everybody else every year gets a salary increase.
It's in the contract.
Union
They have a
contract.
multi-year contract, and that's what we negotiate.
How many percent is it, you know, Joe?
3%, the police got 3%. What we negotiated, that's what we were just negotiating in Public Works. Now,
But you look at the budget, Joe does the budget. The police salaries is probably 40% of the budget,
Right.
if not more. That's a lot of money.
And it keeps increasing.
And the benefits are going up 6.5%, right off the top.
I thought 8% this year.
Oh, it is 8%. You're right, it was 6.5 last year. So it's 8% this year.
So all these,
I'm just asking. That's, I mean,
the,
you know.
the budget last year was slim. We trying to watch every single penny we got and try to do as little as possible. And we had a lot of help with the fire department, but you gotta be smart about it too. We had some paving that was done at the VFW that they did, they were paying for it. So we were able to do some of our work by just buying the asphalt, not labor. So it wasn't budgeted, but you have to do it. We have a backhoe that was dead almost. We had to put $7,000 in it. We have to have that backhoe ready for salt. So some of these things you have to weigh, so you can't even budget for some of this stuff. That's why you use the tendencies. What did you spend in Public Works general expenses in 17, 18, 19, 20? We usually go back 3 years. We'll do this year to date, we'll do last year and the year before. You have to come up, but we know that these things, and it's not a secret, we've been talking about this for over a year, and in last year budget season, there was the parks, 250, speed humps, 250, or just say 150. There was, say 150 for compensation. There was a fourth one back.
But rising cost of fuel, Joe.
No, that's all in general expense, we didn't do that yet.
Because
It was-
how many vehicles do we have to gas?
We have.
We just paid off 4 vehicles, so
Insurance.
I'm sure police vehicles are gonna be in there, but that's already budgeted. Those expenses were budgeted last year, or for this year, and even though we paid them off, that money will carry over the same amount.
And we always have to buy police
I
vehicles
can
because
guarantee you.
the
I can
life of them only
guarantee-
lasts so long, you know, because you don't want to.
Well, paving was another thing.
You don't want a
Yeah, that's right.
100,000 mile
Parks.
police car on the road.
Parks, speed humps, and paving.
I can guarantee when we get done with our part of the budget this year, it is going to be unbalanced and need to be balanced with everybody else's help.
Right.
It's going to be unbalanced this year.
And that's okay. I mean, it's like, everyone's problem is, we're gonna raise taxes. Oh boy, the borough did it. But everyone does. You know, your cable bill goes up and everyone says, oh, cable bill went up. Or your electric bill goes up. We don't even know when the electric bill went up. Or anything else that goes up. The school district, their taxes go up, no one says anything. For 12 years. It's amazing that we went 12 years. And you wanna, and look at another stat. I have them on my desk from, Becky just gave it to me today, the tax transfer stamps that we get. Every house, we get a check for every house, so it gives us, every house what it was sold at. And then I go in and I look at every single parcel. What was it sold at, what was it assessed at? There's 150 houses that needs reassessed immediately, right off the bat. To a tune of, the houses or the buildings and houses were sold for $28 million. Take a guess, Dave, what they're assessed at. Sold 28 million,
Probably $1 million.
$14 million.
That's it.
Half. So that means we're getting half. Now, we're not going to do it, it doesn't make sense to do it, the county has to do it. This is the only way you have to go and fight these assessments. And then it goes to a board, and you might not even win. But that comes to like another $40,000 a year that we can get if we win these. Now, we're winning like 99% right now. All these houses are being sold and they're assessed low. You know, for some reason, it seems like all these houses, you know, were sold after, and the owner owned them for 30 years. And you don't see too many houses that were sold, bought in the last 10 years, the same house. So, you know, I just talked to a guy in the county today, I said, why can't the county, when you sell your house for $100,000, why do you automatically assess it at 75? 75% of what you bought it for. If the borough feels that they should get more, then the borough should be able to go and fight it. And say, hold it, we think we should get 90% or we should get 100%. Some people will go down there, have a mortgage, and say that the house wasn't worth that and they want to fight it. Well, how is it banking? You ain't getting a loan. You're not getting a loan unless that house is worth it. So these houses are worth it. We need to fight everyone, which means we need to pay our solicitor this amount of money. Another thing that I thought was going to be it's amazing the work that the engineer is doing for us right there in 2021 and 20 and probably 22. These grants take a lot. He doesn't. We meet every Friday at 10 o'clock. We meet to go over these grants and where we are, what we need. It's amazing the work that the engineering company has to do for this. It's mostly them. They mostly have it. I have very little to do. It's mostly them preparing the cost basis, the project, what's going to be needed, so forth and so on. But raising taxes is not a bad thing. If you would sit at my desk and listen to these calls, people will tell you about the parks are in bad shape and this and that. Well, we know that we're going to replace some of these, but they'll tell you, it wasn't in the budget. Well, raise taxes and put it in the budget. It's not a bad thing.
I think, you know, if you do it and you see improvement, you see things are getting done, then, you know, it's a good thing. If you raise taxes and nothing's happening, you know, with your roads, then it's a bad thing.
Well, you're not gonna be able to tell.
You
You're not-
can't please everybody.
The residents not gonna be able to tell if things are going. You're not gonna tell that and we're going out of our way to try to look at early retirements and different things like that to save the borough money. So, you know, we are trying to, you know, work on the expenditures a good bit. But the public's not gonna know that this is what the police make and the public works make. They're not gonna know that, that's worth $250,000 or whatever, $500,000. They're not gonna know, we put speed humps down, they're not gonna know that was, you know, the money that was spent because you had to buy these signs and do this. Or people in Munhall Borough could care less about the alleys that were just done here, they don't realize that. Everyone wants their own. And we did it, that Pansy Way up in Munhall Gardens, it came out well. We talked about that forever. And so that just seemed to be the one that we had to cut all the time.
Wasn't
And
that
one
the
other
one you
thing
just
is-
did? Wasn't Pansy Way the one you just did?
Yeah.
And I think somebody wrote a letter in the paper saying thank you.
Yeah.
They did appreciate it.
Well, I can tell you this, I never got in, I got a lot of calls, negative calls, right back, boom. You got a lot of negative calls, we didn't get any calls that said, oh, thank you.
It may not have been a call, Mr. Rowland, it was in the paper though. It was in the Valley Mirror.
And then the only other thing that,
Smart people.
I talked to Homestead Borough about crossing guards. It seems like it's trouble for us to get crossing guards. They pay $15 an hour for their crossing guards. I talked to Pleasant Hills. Pleasant Hills got a ton. They pay more. They put, I'm not even gonna say what they do with theirs, but we may want to look to increasing our
What are we paying right now?
crossing guard, 12.
Oh, damn. You can't get people out of the house for $12 no more.
But don't forget, they work 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon.
And then they get what, how many hours?
They get 4 hours a day.
They get 4 a day?
40 hours a week, or 2 weeks, every 2
In
weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, so you figure is that by the time they take the paycheck home,
They ain't making much.
no, $3 an hour.
That's why we can't hold
And
them.
we,
Yeah,
and we as a
that-
borough,
Can't hold them.
I'm sure.
and as a borough, we're paying more than that when you have one that gets sick or has a doctor's appointment or can't come in, and then you got a cop standing there. Now you're paying.
Now you're paying 30
Now you're paying
something.
$35 an hour as a borough.
60.
Vote up tomorrow.
Don't forget, that's not all on the borough.
No,
Half the school district.
correct,
half-
right, we get half
Now,
back.
does the school district have to approve raising the rates?
They would probably do that.
Raise what you're paying them?
Yeah,
Yeah, they would.
Matt, council is currently discussing increasing crossing guard pay rate to match Homestead's rate at $15 an hour. Would you be able to make this a topic of discussion with the board? Joe, our board meeting was last night, but I can bring this up next month's meeting, October 25th, is our working session, and October 28th is our voting session. I know, I can look it up, but what is the current rate? So, yeah. Matt is their business manager through the Allegheny meeting.
$15 an hour seems to be the rate that every company's floating out there to get people to come work.
Swissville's at 1540.
Right.
Yeah,
It's $1.50 for us.
right.
That's what it
Over
is.
half of it's,
$6 a day. Well, I don't know how many crossing guards we have, but I mean, $6 a person.
12.
well,
for a 12 month.
So $72 a day will cost us.
That husband and wife, top and bottom of Marion,
Malokis.
they don't miss nothing.
Mm-mm.
They're there, rain, cold, whatever, they're there, they
She-
don't miss.
She's been here since
She jumps out too quick
1976.
sometimes, she hits my car.
She's been a crossing guard since 1976.
Yes.
Well,
But they're good.
She is, and she,
They're
they
dependent.
both are.
If you ask that, some people, you know, they're dependent.
40 something years.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We'll have to do something for her at a council meeting or something. I mean, just to honor a plaque of her service or something sometime.
She said she came in today, she had a badge that she got when she was sworn
Go
in
play
back
your
on
stop
night.
sign.
She put it on her coat.
That's when
It
they
looks like a badge
Wow.
of police. She said, I don't want to
She
get in
bought some
trouble.
good donuts,
She's
and
real
when we got that crosswalk, she said, could she beg for a crosswalk? I said, call the county, send me an email.
She jumped
No,
out
no,
front.
not next week.
Yes, she did.
She gave me donuts.
She got hurt,
Donuts.
yes, she
Yes,
did.
she did, she thought that stop sign was gonna stop that
Jumped
car.
out there trying
No,
to
it
get
didn't
it.
stop.
Mhm.
Any addition stuff?
Bob, I think it's something you want to bring up, or maybe you already did.
He did.
Okay.
Remember the workshop,
Okay.
it was about the sewer authority. Yeah. Yeah, we did.
I don't know.
All right.
I need a motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion?
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.